Video 4, Working with Notes and Queries. In this video, we're going to look at a feature called Notes. You'll also find a section on this in the handout linked in the video description. NVivo is a powerful tool, not just for importing and organizing your data, creating codes and setting up cases, but also for documenting your own thoughts as you work. Instead of keeping reminders in a notepad or separate Word document, you can store everything directly within your NVivo project using Notes. It's an optional feature, but a great way to keep your reflections and observations organized in one place. Notes are a type of document you can use to record ideas, insights, interpretations, or your evolving understanding of the material. For example, you might create a note linked to a specific file to capture any observations or issues that came up while reviewing it. In one of the next videos, we'll look at a focus group transcript, and let's say one of the participants was unusually quiet. You might create a note attached to that file that says something like, "Participant X was very quiet. This may have influenced what they shared." You can also create notes linked to codes, cases, queries, or even just general notes that aren't attached to anything specific. So how do we create notes? Let's start by creating a project memo that isn't linked to any specific part of the project, just a general note about our methodology. On the left side of the screen, in the navigation view, click the Notes heading to expand this section. Then click on Memos underneath it. This will open the Memos area in the main workspace on the right. NVivo may display some introductory information about memos. Go ahead and click the Close button at the bottom of the screen to dismiss it. To create a new memo, right-click on the Memos option in the navigation view and choose New Memo from the list of options that appear. A window will open in the main workspace, prompting you to enter a name, description, and location for the new memo. The name is what will appear in your list of memos, so choose something clear and descriptive. Let's name this Project Methodology. The description field is optional, but it can help clarify the purpose of the memo if you're working with others or revisiting the project later. The location lets you choose where to save this memo within the broader project structure. By default, it'll be saved under Memos in the Notes section, but if you've created folders to help organize your project, you can select one of those instead. Once you're ready, click OK to create the memo. The main workspace will now split into two sections, with a blank area on the right for us to write our information. You can also import a memo from a text file, for example, if you've already written something up in Word. To do this, go to the top of the screen and click the Import tab. Then select Notes and Email, and choose Memos from the list that appears. Alternatively, you can simply copy and paste text from your document directly into the blank space within the Memos workspace. Let's type something into this blank memo space, but first, use the zoom slider in the bottom right corner of the screen to enlarge the text for easier reading. For example, you might type, "I've decided that I will code concepts separately if they're divided by another concept." You can include any kind of information here, methodological decisions, observations, or reminders to yourself. When you're done editing, uncheck the Edit box in the top left corner of the memo entry pane, then close the Memo tab by clicking the X in the top right corner of the tab. You can now return to working in another area of NVivo. If you want to revisit this memo later, just click Memos in the navigation view again, then double-click the name of the memo from the list in the main workspace. Let's now create a linked memo. In the navigation view on the left side of the screen, under the Already Expanded Files section, click on Google Reviews to display its contents in the main workspace. In the main workspace on the right, locate the file named Quinn. Right-click on Quinn to open a list of options. Move your cursor over the Memo Link option. This will open a submenu. From that submenu, click Link to New Memo. This creates a new memo, and a window appears prompting us to give the memo a name. Let's name it Quinn. We also have the option to add a description or choose a different location for this memo, but we'll skip this for now. Click OK in the bottom right corner of the window to create the memo. The main workspace will now split, and the new memo titled Quinn will open, ready for entry. We can type something like, "Quinn seems to be the only person who got a response. Is this significant?" When you're done, close the memo by clicking the X at the top right side of the Memo tab above the entry field. Later, if I click Memos under the Notes heading in the navigation view, I'll see the memo titled Quinn there. I can also return to the Google Reviews under Files in the navigation view And now, in the main workspace, there's a small chain link icon to the right of the file named Quinn, showing that a linked memo exists for this item. So it's just a convenient way of keeping track of your thoughts, like adding a sticky note directly to your data. The last thing we're going to look at today is queries. The whole point of setting up the back end of your project, adding classifications and doing your coding, is so you can analyze the data. In other words, is there anything we can learn from what the people said and who they were? That's where queries come in, and you can use them right at the beginning of your project, even before doing any coding. For example, if you've just imported your data and want to get a sense of what's being mentioned in the data, a query is a great place to start. There are many types of queries in NVivo, but we'll begin with the simplest, the text search query. To get started, click on the Explore tab from the options at the very top of the screen. Then we'll click on the Text Search button from the toolbar underneath. This will split the main workspace, with the Queries pane opening on the right side of the screen. This pane allows us to search our files, or just specific ones, for particular words. At the top of the Queries pane, there are 3 buttons that let us choose where we want to run the search. The first button, Files and Externals, is selected by default. This option searches across everything in the project. The second and third buttons allow us to narrow the search to specific items or folders. If we click the Selected Items button, a new window appears where we can place check marks next to the folders we want to search. We can also click the plus sign icon to the left of a folder to expand it to select subfolders, like Google Reviews, which is found under Files. For now, we'll click Cancel in the bottom right corner of that window to go back to the default option, Files and Externals. Next, we'll move down to the text entry field labeled Search For within the Queries pane. This is where we specify the word we're looking for. I'm expecting that people might mention prices or possibly talk about expired food, so let's start by typing the word price into the Search For field. To the right of this field, there's a vertical slider that controls how broadly NVivo matches your search. Click and drag the slider up or down. Pulling it farther down will broaden the results to include similar or related terms. We'll move the slider from the default setting of Exact Match down to the second highest option, Stemmed Words. This will include variations like prices and pricing in the search results. This helps broaden the search so we're not too specific, but we still capture the overall concept. Once that's set, click the Run Query button at the top right of this pane to see the results. The results will appear in the bottom half of the Queries pane. If you're using Windows, you'll also see a set of tabs along the right-hand side of this area with vertical labels: Summary, Reference, Text, and Word Tree. By default, we're on the Summary tab, which shows a list of files where the word price appears. If I click on the Reference tab, it displays the specific sentences or excerpts from each file where the word price is mentioned. If we click on the Text tab, we're shown a preview of the surrounding context in which the word appeared within the file. If I double-click on any of these result lines, NVivo will open the full document and highlight the search term where it appears, so you can see it in its original context. The word tree is also pretty interesting. It visually maps out how the word price is used in different phrases across the data. For example, we can see phrases like, "It's definitely not," and "really consider it," both connecting to "worth the," which in turn connects to the word price. So what it's showing us is that in several cases, people are saying things like, "It's definitely not worth the price," or "We don't really consider it worth the price." It gives you a quick way to spot patterns in how certain words or ideas are being expressed, and sometimes that can lead to useful insights. The next kind of query we're going to do is a word frequency. This is also a really good exploratory tool, and to do this type of query, we're going to go back to the top of the screen and click again on Explore from the list of options, and then click on the Word Frequency button from the toolbar below. Once again, we'll set our search parameters in the right side of the split main workspace. Just like before, we're presented with the same 3 buttons that control where the search will take place. We'll leave it on its default setting, Files and Externals, to search across everything. Later in your project, especially if you have many different categories or folders, you can be more selective about where to search, depending on what you're trying to explore. For example, you will likely want to exclude any notes you have created, but we won't worry about that for now. Below that, we have 2 number fields that let us fine-tune the results. The first field sets how many words will be displayed. By default, it shows us the 1,000 most frequent words appearing in our Google reviews. The second field sets a minimum word length. By default, only words with at least 3 letters will be included in the results. This helps filter out things like or to, which are too short to be meaningful in most cases. To the right of this field, we'll move the slider from the default setting of exact match down to the second highest option, stemmed words. Once those settings are in place, we can click the Run Query button in the top right corner of the queries pane. This type of query is especially useful because instead of searching for a specific word you already have in mind, it shows you which words come up most frequently across your dataset, offering a broader view of what's being emphasized in the text. Below our search settings, we now see a list of the most frequently used words. By default, they're sorted from most to least frequent. For example, we can see the word store appears 6 times across our files. The word foods also shows up, and if you look at the last column of that row, you'll see that stemmed words like food are also included as well, bringing the total to 5 occurrences. As you scroll through the results, especially in a larger dataset, you might come across a word you hadn't thought of and realize, oh, I should look into that. For instance, even though the word appreciate only appears 3 times, it might still be worth exploring depending on your research focus. I can double-click on the word appreciate, and it will open a new tab within our split main workspace. This tab shows each instance where the word appears, along with some of the surrounding context from the original files. Let's go back 1 tab to the left to our original results tab and take a look at some of the other types of visualizations available. For this type of query, the word cloud can be especially interesting. People tend to like word clouds. They're a simple and visually engaging way to get a quick sense of what terms appear most frequently. This is a visualization you might want to explore in your own project. Just note that it can take a little time to generate, so for the sake of this video, we'll skip ahead past the loading time. The way the word cloud works is simple. The larger words that appear toward the center are the ones used most frequently in your dataset. The smaller words around the edges are less common. The colors don't represent anything specific, they're just there to make it easier to visually distinguish between the words, especially the larger, more frequent ones. If you're using NVivo on Windows, you'll see options at the top of the screen that let you switch between different visualization styles. There are similar options available on Mac, though the layout may look slightly different. So that wraps up our introduction to notes and queries in NVivo. In this video, we covered how to use notes in NVivo to document your observations, reflections, and methodological decisions, either as standalone memos or linked to specific files, cases, or codes. We also introduced the concept of queries, starting with the text search and word frequency queries, to help you begin exploring patterns in your data. When you're ready, move on to the next video, where we'll continue building on this project.